The markets actually retraced pretty quickly that morning. Joining me now, Presidential Transition Team Executive Committee member and Skybridge Capital co-founder Anthony Scaramucci. It's a 180-degree turn in the markets. Let's get to other headlines, Anthony. I want your reaction. A Trump win would sink stocks, extreme fears back on Wall Street blame the election, and even Citigroup said a Trump victory would sink the stock market.
And I think several of the other investors make 75% chance that he was losing and so on and so forth. And so, but unlike the Brexit, and I think the markets were actually prepared for this, they recognize that a Trump administration, the United States is now open for business. Regulations are going to be curbed. We're not going to go into an under-regulated society at all. We're going to have a fairly regulated society. We're going to get a reconciliation on the tax treaties around the world and repatriate several $1 trillion of capital, put it back to work for the American people. We're going to simplify the tax code. There's 75,000 pages of taxes that have to get skinny down. Chances are that our corporate income tax rate, Lizzie, which is the highest in the world, is going lower. We hope it'll be at 15%. You add all that up and you're a securities analyst and you start projecting forward earnings, market's going to trade higher. There's no place in the world where you're going to see 30% earnings growth for each business but the United States. If we move taxes from 35% down to 15%, every business, large and small, is going to experience excess profits, and that's filtering now into the Trump bump.
Are the markets getting ahead of themselves, though? I mean,
yeah,
infrastructure stocks.
Listen, of course the markets are getting ahead of themselves. That's what markets do. They're anticipatory, and so they're now looking at forward earnings horizon that's positive. Interest rates are still going to stay low. Guidance from the Federal Reserve is that they're going to move them, but not move them dramatically. That combination is a very powerful tonic for asset prices. But you and I both know there'll be a hint of bad news out there at some point, and there'll be a correction in these markets.
You know, let's switch gears. Last night, Mark Cuban, remember Mark Cuban, of course, he said he would rather, quote, lose every penny than have Trump as president. But he was spotted at a local bar with key Trump advisor Steve Bannon. So, Anthony, what's this about? Is he coming around? Is this an action plan they're talking about for Silicon Valley?
I was with Steve after he met with Mark, was back up at Trump Tower with him. We're making the outreach. I think it's very important for the American people to know that Mr. Trump really means what he says. You have to take him at his word about wanting to be the president for all the people of the United States. Not just the people that voted for the Trump administration, but the people that voted against the Trump administration. I think that's very, very important. In Mark Cuban's case, I think they were friends for a very long period of time. I don't know what the philosophical difference is there, but there was one. And our attitude now is let's just make the outreach.
Well, what do you hope to get out of Mark Cuban? Outreach to Silicon Valley or what?
Well, I would say it's more than that. I think what we'd like to do is we'd like to dial down the anti-campaign sort of nonsense and screed that we had at each other. You heard the remarks that Mr. Trump made to the New York Times yesterday about Secretary Clinton. We want to focus on the forward progress for the American people. And so whatever happened in the past that was sort of campaign rhetoric, let's move on and let's try to figure out ways that we can work together to serve the interests of the American people. Mark Cuban is a very charitable guy, and Mark Cuban is a very good guy, and he just may have a philosophically different opinion politically, but we all love the country, Lizzie, and so let's work together for the country.
We talked about Mr. Trump's 100-day plan, and includes executive actions overturning what President Obama had enacted. We also have this, a federal judge blocking a new rule that would have made millions of more Americans eligible for overtime pay. We're talking about the middle manager, white-collar worker. Basically, the judge is indefinitely pushing the effective date back, but this is the 5th time that President Obama has seen his executive orders blocked, Anthony. So what do you think of this?
Well, Justice Scalia is smiling down upon us on the eve of Thanksgiving, because what you know about the Constitution and what we're learning now as part of the transition team, we look through these executive orders, there's a case being made that there's executive overreach here by the Obama administration. And so when the judges are repealing that, they've got case law and precedent that say, wait a minute, Mr. President, you're overreaching here. In the case of the overtime stuff, what he's doing is he's dictating to the markets what free market forces should be on the cross-section of labor in the markets. As an example, if I have an intern at Skybridge and I want to train them, and I am paying them, but yet they're also getting education from me, the president's ignoring that. I could have 60, 70 hours a week where the person's working for me and I'm getting a benefit from it, but so are they. And I think the president got rebuked here once again. But it's okay, ladies and gentlemen, because let me tell you, when President Trump gets in there, a lot of these executive orders have to be overturned.
All right, so you're
get the economy moving.
You're close to the situation. You're seeing, all right, so President Obama issued 260 executive orders, but also executive memoranda and the like. being close to it, what do you see? Are you seeing what President Obama actually enacted that we in the media are missing? Are you seeing it?
No, I think the media's got it right, but the media's given him a pass on the overreach because most of the media's not going to focus on that. But here's the thing I will tell the American people. The powers of the American presidency are extraordinary. Whatever you thought the powers were, Liz, of the American presidency, they're way bigger than you and I thought. Okay, I have one of those things you plug into your computer, the disk drive, whatever you call it. There's 4,700 jobs that we're responsible for now hiring for. If you look at the administration and the power of the executive branch of the government, it's absolutely extraordinary.
You know, we always talk about unelected bureaucrats, but really the president sets the tone for those bureaucrats to enact policy, right?
Yeah, and the good news is we got super smart, common sense-oriented people. Mr. Trump's message to his executive transition team is I want problem-solving people that know a lot about common sense to get this thing going.
All right, thank you, Anthony.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. And to your folks, too.